So, from the beginning, what is your origin story? Where have you come from? Where did you grow up? Tell us a little bit about your family.
I grew up in the Blue Mountains, up in Lura. I have my parents still live up there, and I have an older brother and an older sister. Grew up as part of the Uniting Church all my life, up in Lura Uniting. I was there for the first 22 years of my life. And yeah, that church is always a huge part of our family and a huge part of our life, and I think it's probably one of the most formative things for me, particularly my parents and their involvement there. They were those two people who often you find at every church who just do everything, who are involved in everything, and they did it with such grace and such love that it was just amazing to watch. They were the ones that were always on church council and on elders, and my mum ran the kids club for 25 years, and they did scripture, and they just did everything up there. And so for that was an important model for me for what church was and what it is. For me, church is something that you work at, it's something you participate in, it's something that you put your whole self into and give what you can into. And I mean, that was something that's modelled most through them for me.
So you grew up in Lura. How did you come to be in Sydney, and how did you, what made you continue to go to church?
Yeah, so I started my first degree in engineering, studying at UTS. And yeah, I was commuting down for a time, but as part of that I found CSU, Christian Students Uniting, our university Bible studies as part of that, and and that's sort of how I got into this world. It's a fairly long story, I guess. Do you want me to tell it now or later? Yes. It's like one of those, I guess, God moments for me is this story, and some of you would have heard this before, but I'd come back from a orientation camp, and I was looking for that. They had an orientation day at the uni, all the clubs were out at Mountain. Was actually looking for the hockey club, and happened to see the Uniting Church still there. And for those who, well, probably not many would have known me at that time, but I was quite the introvert. I would go out of my way not to talk to people if I could, but I went and talked to the Uniting Church still there. I talked to there and joined up. And it sounds not like much, but it actually is a really big deal. I still have no idea why I did that. I still don't know why that's what I chose to do in that moment. And I can pinpoint pretty much everything that's happened in my life back to that moment of connecting with Bible studies on campus, then connecting with the faith community, meeting Rads through there, exploring my call to ministry. All that stuff sort of stems to that moment. So it's actually quite a remarkable thing for me to look back on that moment and see the value that it's had. And that's part of the story as to why I'm here, why I'm still a Christian, was through that tradition, I think, yeah.
So it sounds from your story that there wasn't a specific moment of conversion for you, but rather a kind of a gradual inheritance of faith to become your own. You mentioned that kind of God moment is why you are a Christian today. Is there anything else that keeps you a believer and keeps you in the church? What are the things that you love about church and faith and Jesus and all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think community is one of them. I mean, the community I grew up in Lura was an incredible community, and one where I felt incredibly loved and supported. I mean, it was a pretty small community at times, as there was a year where I was the only person in my Sunday school class, and so I had one-on-one tutelage, which was actually quite amazing. But yeah, I was always supported, always encouraged, and always just invited to participate, and that was, I guess, an amazing experience, and I just really value that aspect of church, that we are in this together. And I think one of the other things that's really kept me is I guess the opportunity that being part of CSU and later the churches, the university churches, has been the way to actually be true about what I'm thinking and what I'm believing. We all go through those times where we don't necessarily believe as much as we might have, or things may have changed. I mean, for me, growing up in the church, I guess I always sort of held on to faith through other people. I saw all these amazing people around me who were completely devoted to the church, and through that I sort of held on to it. There's something in here for me that I can be part of. And then as I went into uni and sort of that time where you start thinking more for yourself. What is it that I actually believe for myself? And definitely went through a crisis of faith at that point where, I questioned, do I believe any of this? Is any of this for me? And being able to ask that question and to share that with John Hurt, the chaplain at the time, and to not have that sort of dismissed in any way, but to actually have that embraced and said, yeah, that's a really good question to ask. Let's talk about that. Let's explore that. That's what's kept me here. I think that freedom to doubt, that freedom to ask questions, that freedom to be vulnerable and to be accepted in that space. And that was from that point, I guess my faith sort of reformed and grew because I was given such a strong encouragement, strong foundation.
Can you think of a life experience where your faith changed or your theology changed or your values changed as a result of that experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's probably lots of them, but I guess the one that comes to mind is particularly sort of thinking back to where I was, particularly in high school and where I am now. I mean, I wouldn't have said that I was homophobic in any particular way in high school, but as sort of a kid, sort of as is the style at the time, the idea of calling someone gay was the go-to slur. That was the thing that we would say, and didn't really know there was anything wrong with that. Didn't really, and it wasn't until moving down to Sydney and joining up with the Ultimo Faith community, which eventually moved and became part of this evening service, where I met people like David and Curtis, who were an incredible witness to me just from their, back then they were together, this incredible relationship that they had. I think that they together followed Jesus together. They were made better disciples because they were together. That I was able to sort of see that of myself, see that the past behaviour wasn't right, and it's that living in community, that experience of life with these people is what changes, what I think shapes our theology, what should shape our theology in some ways, that we should be, and that's why I'm affirming, I guess, in that today, is because of that experience. Yeah.
You chose the two Bible passages that we heard this evening, one from Revelation and one from Luke. Can you tell us the significance of those passages for you? Why did you choose those?
The passage from Revelation is what I would probably consider one of the most beautiful passages in Scripture. It just astounds me every time I hear it, and I will almost cry each time I hear it. It's kind of counterintuitive when it's no more tears, but anyway. There's something about it that is, the nature of it in the book of Revelation is this sort of, this end times, this future idea about what is it that's come next, and this idea of the new heaven and the new earth and these things being all one is something that is, it's really moving to me. And I think the passage is ultimately about talking about the end of suffering. And I think that for me, when I think about being a Christian, when I think about following Jesus, when I think about how challenging that can be at sometimes, that's almost the thing that I hold on to, this idea that at some point, in some time, in some way, there will be an end of suffering, and that's something that I want to be part of. That's something I want to work towards with my own life, but something I also want to experience with the people here and people in the world. That's sort of the call. That's the thing that carries me into that. That's why I picked the Revelation reading for sure. The second one, the one from Luke, is important to me for a couple of reasons. The first one is that it's a incredible moment of grace. It's one of the best moments of grace again for me in the Bible, and the point at where the second thief sort of just says to Jesus, remember me, is just an incredible moment. It's a why it's become a Taizé chant, as we heard earlier. There's something incredibly moving in those words. It's not asking for anything apart from being remembered, and from that we can see that moment of conversion, that Jesus actually reaches out grace and says, today you'll be with me in paradise, that you are now welcome to be with me in this space. And that's incredible. That's astounding to me, and it's something that just holds my heart so dear. But it's also a challenge for me. As you mentioned, my experience of coming to faith and holding on to faith wasn't that sort of immediate conversion, that moment where the light shone down and things suddenly changed for me. It's been this ongoing process of conversion and reconversion all the time. And so there are times when I can actually be quite skeptical of the other, the different way, those who have had that experience. And this passage is a reminder for me to to hear a different experience, to know a different experience. It doesn't have to be the same as mine, but there's something incredibly beautiful in the experience of the other in that for me, and it's something that I kind of use to remind myself of that.
So from school, you did a degree in mechanical and mechatronic engineering. Now you are a minister of the word at Leichhardt Uniting Church. Can you please connect those dots?
Sure. I studied engineering at UTS for 5 years, but as I said, I joined being part of our university Bible studies with CSU, and eventually I moved from the mountains and I moved into the share house with some of the guys from Bible studies, and I joined the faith community and was really involved there. And sort of in my last year of my degree, I had the opportunity to be a mission worker, to work alongside the chaplain at the time, and I really loved that role. I really loved that opportunity. It was really forming for me, but as it was my last year, I had to write my thesis, and so I kind of had to pull back towards the end of it, but felt that I still had more to offer and there was still more that I wanted to do. So I made the commitment for myself that I'd take a year off, work for the church, work for tertiary ministry for a year, and then I'd start my engineering degree, and that was in 2009, and never done any engineering at all. That was, so I was, again, that time, that experience of that year, and just fell in love with what I was doing and fell in love with working with the church, and found myself pulled into that world and just not seeing a future for me in the engineering world in the same way. And so that's when I did a period of discernment, which is a process in the Uniting Church that we have that allows anybody to think about what sort of ministry they might offer in their lives. And for me, that experience came about to ordain ministry, and so then sort of followed through the pattern for the Uniting Church, which is a fairly long pattern. And that's sort of wound up being ordained in 2016. Brad and I were ordained together, which was wonderful. And then I took on the role as the new chaplain at Sydney Uni, as well as resourcing other chaplaincies, and that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years before the move to here.
Do you want to tell people our origin story?
Yeah, this was us this morning. We met at church camp. That was cool. School of discipleship. Woo. And that was, Radica was part of the Burwood Church, which is sort of a sister church of ours, another one that sort of focuses in that world of tertiary ministry. And we just met at that conference, and then we sort of chatted on MSN Messenger. You guys are even old enough to know what MSN, some of you. Yeah, okay, cool. Did that for 6 months, and then that was right when I was sort of coming to the end of my period of discernment, and that was when Rads was about to start hers, and so we kind of bonded over that, and the rest is history, I guess. Yeah.
What are you excited about in this new placement? What is it that is exciting, or what visions or dreams might you have for this placement?
I think the university ministry has been so formative for me. That's sort of why I want to do chaplaincy. That's why I want to do that, is to give that back, to hopefully give that opportunity to other people, to share that with other people. But why I'm connected with this church as well, I think because the story of tertiary ministry is one that's incredibly forming for this community, but it's not actually something that many people have experienced. There's a few of you in the room who would have been to university Bible studies at times, but a lot of you may have not have been, and that's one of the things I want to connect, because the value that we have in in-depth Bible study and learning how we can best read the Bible, learning how we can make it relevant for us today, when a book that was written so long ago and can be so confusing and complex sometimes, how do we understand some of that, all that historical stuff, the context of it? How do we sort of see what it's saying, and how do we understand what it means for us today? That's the sort of stuff we do at the uni, and that's the stuff that we want to bring into this place, so that we together can be a learning community, and that's what I'm really excited about.
A question that is always asked in these Tapestries of Faith is this one. If today you had the opportunity to meet God face to face, what would you say? What would you ask?
So I have two. One's the stupid one, one's the real one. Many of you would know John O'Freeston, a long-time member of this community. He is now in the US for a couple of years. But John and I have been mates for a long time now, and quite like to drink beer together. And so I just wonder who bought more beers. It's been a long-standing thing for us, and it could well be quite even, or one of us could be a big mutual. I'm not really sure. So I'm kind of interested to know. That's one thing. But I think the real one, the thing that sort of hits me again and again at the moment is why cancer? Why is this thing part of our world? Obviously, in our own community with David, it's something that we've all felt, but I think we've all probably felt it in our lives. And I know for me, just in the last 2 years, one aunt has passed away, another one is going to pass away soon because of this incredible, horrendous disease that we just can't get our heads around. And why is it there? Why is it so hard for us? And why is it getting worse, it seems, in some ways too? Yeah.
So we're at the beginning of this journey with Leichhardt Uniting Church. Is there anything you want to say to the congregation?
I want to say thank you to all those who have done such a great job welcoming us into this place. I wouldn't take that for granted. I think sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you'll come into a new place and you'll be fighting every step of the way, and that's not been our experience here. We've been welcomed, we've been encouraged, we've been invited into this space to help work beside you and to help lead this community, and that's been a wonderful experience, so we're really grateful for that. I think the other thing is just to say we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop moving, and so we want you to come with us. And so while there might be the urge to breathe a sigh of release and sort of just step back now that the ministers have arrived and they can handle everything, we're going to drag you along with us. We want you to be involved. We want you to figure out what it is that you are, what you can contribute to this church, what is it you want to participate in, whether it's music or whether it's worship or whether it's whatever it is. We want to see everyone being part of this community and giving fullness of themselves to be part of this place.